share Sheena. She can hear us though, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Good, good. Yeah, waiting for it to populate here. Populate. There it goes. Wow.
All right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Talk About It Live with Frank and Manny here in Del Rio, Texas. Good morning, Frank.
Hey, good morning.
You doing
man.
all right, brother? How you doing
What's
this
up,
morning?
bro?
All right.
Hey, everybody.
Got our tacos and our coffee this morning. Really important things to start the day, man. And so I was running a little bit late this morning, and golly, man, this really hit the spot. I got my machacado here with me.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling good.
It's a good Texas morning, brother.
Oh, heck yeah, man. And so we're very excited today. We had a special guest we're going to be bringing on here shortly with us today. So what's pretty awesome is that we've been, due to, modern technology, we have this special guest via Zoom.
Yes.
And so it's pretty exciting to be able to do such things like this today, right?
Yeah, it's always a good thing to be able to connect. It's it's a great tool, and our guest today is very active in the state of Texas. So it's a great thing that we'll be able to bring her on board here in a few minutes. But just want to say good morning, Texas. Good morning, America. Thanks for joining us. Like, share, follow. This is a movement, the movement of the people, as we fight to take back our state and our country, as we fight against the establishment, we fight against the forces that want to destroy our nation. We've got to get out there and get the word out. And this is part of how we do it. And so thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, and for all you people that are joining us, please make sure that you like and you share. We're not only on Facebook Live, we're on YouTube and Rumble as well. You'll be able to hear the podcast later on Podbean, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Also, you can download them and listen to them anytime you want to. We also have a website, tacoboutlive.com. You can go to our website and download our podcast from there. Also, watch our videos. And we also have a little merchandise store with some mugs on there as well, so you can join us in the morning with your Talk About It Live coffee mug. And so we've already had a few orders, so that's pretty cool. But we got people out there with some Talk About It Live coffee mugs. Here shortly, maybe we'll start selling tacos, Frank. I don't know, you know.
Yeah. We'll set up a kitchen, and we can start definitely making a little bit of money on the side. The good old American entrepreneur.
That's right, capitalism, right? Capitalism.
Exactly, bro.
And sad to say, Frank, it's today that ideology, that spirit of capitalism is actively. The people are actively seeking to destroy it.
Yeah, it's man. Well, it's kind of like the that animal that eats its own young, man. I mean, we are the product of the entrepreneurship, capitalism. A belief in God. Following the principles. And the really the immutable truths that God has given to humanity. And so we have right now in our nation forces, people being used by those forces to try to destroy what has given us our freedom, our greatness, just the ability to, the privilege to wake up this morning in our comfort of our own homes, bro, not worried about the next meal and how we're going to feed our children today. Thank God for America. Thank God for Texas.
That's right. Praise the Lord for this nation. I mean, this nation has the world over been a beacon of freedom and hope to so many, millions of people who want to come over here to this nation to be American citizens. But sad to say, right now we're experiencing an invasion, an illegal immigration of people, Frank, who I believe don't want to become citizens, but just take advantage of what America has to offer.
Exactly, bro. And as we're talking about freedom, as we're talking about what is going on in our nation today, December 7, we've got to just say thank you. Thank you to the men and women who have served in our armed forces, to that greatest generation, the World War II generation. As we remember today, Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
That was the shot that woke up the sleeping giant, which is America. That was the attack on our sovereignty, our freedom, our very existence. And at that point in time, the American citizens from every color, every state, every socioeconomic group heard the cry to rise up and fight for their nation. Folks, these forces were alive and working as they are now across the world.
Right.
And that greatest generation rose up. They stormed the beaches of Normandy. They went into Europe. They fought in Africa and Asia to ensure that we would be here in front of you today.
Right.
Talking about freedom, talking about those things that make America great, and the need to fight back then was great, and the need to fight today is great. Right now in our present lives, bro. So we got to take a lesson from the past. We thank you. We honor you. We remember those persons that died on that attack in Hawaii back so many years ago. And to their survivors, their family, we're grateful to you. A nation is grateful to you. And to the men and women, the service members who right now are deployed around the world, we thank you. We're praying for you and your families.
Yes. And, and sad to say, Frank, there's an administration in the White House right now that really doesn't support America, our military, our border security, our way of life. I was just reading the other day that Edward James, the last member of the Band of Brothers, passed away, World War II veteran. Wow. I don't know if you've ever seen that program. It's one of my favorite programs, to watch, but it follows the chronicles of these World War II soldiers, and the
young kids, man.
Yeah, young kids, 17, young 19 men. Years old, 20 years old, going overseas to fight against communism and socialism, right? So it wouldn't invade our shores.
Yep.
I served in the military for 6 years. Frank, you served in the military as well, defending our nation, going and being deployed to places to defend our nation against what is being embraced right now.
Yeah.
Socialism and communism, by an administration that is very, very anti-American, anti-God, and anti-Constitution.
Yeah.
Whatever anti you want to throw up there, except they're pro-abortion. That's the only the thing that they're probably for,
Oh, yeah.
and mandates and whatnot.
Yeah.
But folks, what we have going on right here, especially on the border here in Texas, is an outright invasion. Yesterday, I got word, that over 700 were at the Del Rio station alone. 100 were underneath the port of entry. They had like 30 to 40 waiting to get transported at this little, borderlands area where we go once in a while and broadcast. And then they had some, of course, at the gas station. 100 to 150 to 165 per day
Yeah.
are being loaded up at
Yeah.
that gas station.
And folks are, people are saying, well, what about the caravans, that are coming up? Look, folks, it's a caravan size invasion every day on our borders.
Yep.
And I think that our guest here has been up and down this border, has traveled to the Del Rio area from the Dallas area repeatedly, because she's at the forefront, not just as a border activist, trying to raise awareness and reporting back to her, not just her home in Dallas, the Dallas area, but throughout Texas and the country. She's also been very involved, Manny, in the legislative process as a grassroots activist. And so it's a really great, just as we're entering into primary season here, and the State Republican Executive Committee just met up in San Marcos. They elected some new SREC members, but they also came out with legislative priorities. And our guest, Sheena, was very involved in the last session with Congress, as connecting with the grassroots, with our representatives, with the members of the executive committee.
Right.
We all have to come together. And so I think it's a great time to.
Yep, a great time to introduce our guest, Sheena Rodriguez. I love the last name, by the way. Praise the Lord.
From one Rodriguez to another.
From one Rodriguez to another. So, Sheena, I want to thank you so much for being on our program.
Let me throw this mix in there, man. Somewhere's back there. My wife is also Rodriguez.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, wow. Hey man. Yeah. Praise the Lord. We get around, I guess. We move around, and so hey, Sheena, thank you so much for being on our program this morning. How you doing this morning?
I'm good. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It's so
Sheena.
exciting.
Good morning.
Well, we're really excited. For those of you who don't know, Sheena Rodriguez, she's part of Texas Against Illegal Immigration, right? And
Yes.
and also Latinos for America
First.
Yeah.
right? And so that awesome. I was been visiting your website. There, the Texans Against Illegal Immigration here and there. This last week, and you guys are putting out some awesome and great information and what's happening here in our nation. And so maybe you can just explain a little bit about what your website and what your program is all about.
Yes, absolutely. And I hope that your viewers forgive me. I've been a little stuffy, and so if I'm sniffling and coughing, just forgive me. I'm sorry.
It's
This
okay.
weather change has just been horrific. So
We get it.
yeah, so yeah, it's bad. It's Texas, right?
Yes, in
Yep.
Texas. Yeah.
But yes, so we created Texans Against Illegal Immigration. What I started doing was I was active on the legislative end through True Texas Project, and became a citizen advocate going that route, and started going to Austin, kind of started learning the ropes of how Austin works and the legislative process from there. And then when God said go to the border, I was confused, but I went.
Yeah.
And then at several different visits, I'm like, well, I just started praying again. And I'm like, well, I mean, like, God, what can I do? Right? Like, you sent me, what can I do? I don't know what to do. I don't even live at the border, right? But then started seeing the consequences here locally of the border invasion, right? Especially here in with the drugs and the sex trafficking in this area. And so that's when I started applying what I had learned about the legislative process to what I was experiencing at the border, and the disconnect between Austin and the border and the rest of Texas.
Right.
And just started applying that. And then along the road, I had some amazing people come on board and help me create Texans Against Illegal Immigration, Luli, Rosalie, Misty, Jackie, so many other volunteers that we've had as well. And it just kind of felt natural too, because with my affiliation with Latinos for Trump, Latinos for America First, they were serving the Border Patrol. Again, got to learn even more that route, right? And I was already working on like the legislative aspect for LFT, for Latinos for Trump, Latinos for America First. And so we became kind of sisters, because from legislatively, obviously, we were wanting the same priorities, conservative America First priorities, but here in the state of Texas. So obviously, our main concern is our great state of Texas. So now here we are. We started going all these border events, having our letters signed, and walking them into our state senators, our state representatives' offices, sending them to Governor Abbott and the like.
Well, that's pretty awesome, Sheena. Yeah, I think when I hear the name, Latinos for Trump, Latinos for America First, and then you being a female, it doesn't, you don't really fit the narrative, right? That the left wants.
Right.
And so I imagine you get a lot of pushback or surprise reactions and whatnot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is that Luli is our co-founder. She's a legal immigrant. Jackie, one of our most active volunteers over here, she's a legal immigrant.
Wow.
Some of the most upset individuals about what's happening are legal immigrants. My family's Puerto Rican. My husband is a first generation Mexican American. We have attorneys, immigration attorneys in our family. A lot of legal immigrants married into our family as well. So I kind of already had a little bit of knowledge and background of the immigration process. Back under Obama, a lot of those legal immigrants were pushed back to the end of the line, right, because of the flood that were coming in. And now we're seeing the same thing happen. So yeah, it doesn't quite fit the narrative, but what people don't understand is that there's nothing humanitarian about what's happening to the Hispanics that are entering illegally. It allows them to be exploited.
Right.
And then of course Texans and Americans are also exploited. So yeah, it doesn't fit the narrative, but it's the reality. So
yeah. Only two. Yeah, and so Frank, I think you had some stuff you wanted to.
Yeah, Sheena, I know you've been involved in other groups as well, but I thought it was really significant, as we're gearing up to go into this political season. The work you did during this last legislative session was really very important because there were some key issues that were before our legislature, and it's almost like you had to drag these legislators to listen to the will of the grassroots, right? What's your take on that?
So, everything, from a broad spectrum, it was, that's where I realized, like, people think that the DC swamp is bad. They haven't been involved in Austin.
Yeah.
I have to say too, like, please pray for our legislators here in the state. I can't even, after getting involved in this, I can't even think beyond the scope of Texas, because you go into that Capitol, I'll tell you what, I'd rather be on the banks of the border, dealing with what's coming over than in our state Capitol most of the time. You can just feel an evil presence. And that's where a lot of good people go and flip and turn. And that's where we have like rhinos that are born, right?
Yeah.
But it was, I remember, I think one of the most disheartening, and this is not related to the border, but it kind of is, because this is just a testament to why nothing substantial is actually happening. They say that this was the most conservative session ever. Well, I was there a lot. If I wasn't at the border, I was in Austin. And that's most definitely not the case. One of the most impactful that I went home with just a heavy heart and like tears, was when they were trying to, I have a 13-year-old daughter who trains in MMA, mixed martial arts. And I was down there during one of the committees to protect women's sports. And I'm sitting there by myself in a room full of paid actors, essentially. And I'm looking around and I'm praying. And I'm saying to myself, where are all the rest of the mothers? Where are all the rest of the grandmothers? Why am I the only one here? And, and then I go home and I go on social media, right, to just try to like unplug, because I'm just so upset with everything that I'm experiencing, and then I'm standing by myself. And I don't have a problem standing by myself, right? As Christians, we're going to stand by ourselves. And that's when we're going to be tested. And if you can still stand firm on your faith and on your beliefs and in trusting in Jesus and in God, I mean, that's it, right? But it's disheartening. And I go home and I see on social media, and this also goes back even to the border and everything else, where these, people on our side are at home complaining.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the Republicans failed us. And I'm like, well, where were you?
Yeah.
Why weren't you there? I mean, I know that we all, people work, they all have jobs, but those who can be there, why aren't you there? If you find a topic that's important to you, why are you not there? Why are you? I mean, because you've got a handful of people who are dictating the future of our families, of our children, and you're allowing this to happen because you're not spending 3 minutes of your day to pick up the phone and make a phone call. You're not spending 3 minutes of your day to sign a letter. I mean, even if you can't make it out there to Austin, there's other things that you can do to put the pressure on and to let your voice be heard. And people are just not doing it in the massive droves that we need. And whether it's the border, whether it's right to life, whether it's, protecting women's sports, whatever it is, people need to get active and engaged.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And I think, Frank and I, since the inception of this program with, Tacobout Live, that's one of the things that we've been trying to express, or actually not trying to express, but expressing to our audience and to people out there who are listening. Look, if you're one of those ones, who are sitting on the sidelines complaining about what is happening, you need to get out there and do something. I mean, both of us, 25 years Border Patrol retired, Frank, 30 years Border Patrol retired. We lived a life. We have this perspective a lot of people don't. But when I got out of the Border Patrol, and I kept seeing what was happening, well, actually, I knew what was going to continue to happen. I kind of, as I saw everything, things unfolding with this administration, that's actually one of the reasons I retired, because I didn't want to serve under this administration. But as I saw things unfolding, I thought to myself, man, I'm not going to really be able to buy a boat and go out there and kick back on the lake, right? And and fish. Once in a while, I may be able to do that. But the reality is, something has to be done, and that's one of the reasons why we got involved, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's different roles for people. Man, just so many routes to go. But look, the left is trying to destroy us. They're taking advantage of the very process, system, way of life, constitutional foundation that establishes is freedom of speech and such. It gives them that that right to speak up, but it's very destructive. So we need to counter that. Our way of life, our system was geared so that there would be debate. And so that's why we need to get involved. Out of this legislative session, Sheena, I don't know if you've seen the list of priorities that they came out with, but let me just, for the benefit of our audience, let me tell you what are the Republican primary ballot propositions for 2022. And this is what the State Republican Executive Committee voted on. And folks, just real quick, 31 Senate districts in Texas. Each Senate district gets one male, one female representative that's elected by the delegates, or unless there's a special election like there was this last meeting, and then plus the vice chair and the chairman. So anyways, so here's the number one issue that's going to be on the ballot, the proposition, border security. Border security. Number 2, eliminate property tax. Number 3, the vaccine mandate. Number 4, parents' rights and critical race theory. Number 5, right to life. Number 6, committee chairs. Real quick right here, the Republican-controlled Texas legislature should end the practice of awarding committee chairmanships to Democrats. Number 7, election integrity. Number 8, gender modification. Number 9, parental educational relief. And number 10, freedom of conscience, which is Texans affirm that our freedoms come from God and that the government should have no control over the conscience of individuals. So those are the things that are going to be up on the propositions for the primary ballot. And so that's there is plenty of room for people to get involved.
Oh, yeah.
Especially as we see that the decisions of politicians are affecting us at every level here in our state and in our country.
And it's amazing that some of those things actually have to be addressed, right? Like especially in, here in the state of Texas, the state of Texas has this, we talked about it many, many times, has this reputation throughout the world, actually.
Yeah.
That we have, that Texas is different. It's its own republic. It has its own way of life. It stands for freedom. Has been a symbol of freedom, since the Alamo and the Battle of Gonzales and things like that. But sadly, these things are creeping in these ideologies that go against the American way of life and the Texan way of life are creeping in.
And Sheena, I mean, you're there. This is your chance to kind of put a knife, put a knife to the underbelly of the beast. What would you say to your fellow Texans and Americans that think that Texas is this super red state? What would you say with your first hand? And I'm going to reiterate that, folks. Sheena and a small group of volunteers, that she's affiliated with. There were others, of course, but they're just tiny. When you got almost 30 million Texans, that you have maybe less than 100 people, and that's probably even going too far, right, Sheena? But you saw firsthand, on many occasions, daily, the activities of our elected legislators, who are, the majority are Republicans. What would you say about us being a super red state?
I had a conversation last night. We are about to lose Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We're at that pivotal point where, especially traveling throughout Texas and seeing also we talk about Austin, but it's also on the city levels. It's also on the county levels, right? And the left has done a really good job of infiltrating. And it goes back to because of the complacency, right? We've all been busy living our lives, raising our families, working, right? Saving for retirement. And now here we are, where being there, and I mean, even going into the representative and senators' offices, you would think that, some of these things, from gender modification, protecting women's sports, pro-life, constitutional carry, so many different conservative. It's not conservative. I don't know how else to say that. I mean, even here in Tarrant County, so I'm in Tarrant County, right? And we are supposedly the last red, because of Fort Worth, the last large red metroplex area. It's purple at best.
Wow.
And they compromise. I know that you guys talk about the compromise a lot. That's what we see. We see our side compromising, when the left doesn't compromise at all. And you see where behind the scenes, especially when you go to Austin, you see the behind the scenes where they're all buddy. Like, literally, they're banking on everyone not paying attention to how they vote. They really hate us. I mean, and even all the way down to like the precinct level chair, even here in our area, where like they don't want America First people there. You have to fight for even your right to be able to stand there and say, no, I'm going to put Texas first. I'm going to put America first. I'm going to put the conservative Christian values. And I would say that our biggest opposition is our own party.
Right.
I mean, truly and honestly, it's not on every level, from the county level, city level, to all the way to Austin.
Yeah. So you're talking, and it's something we've seen, Sheena. So you're referring to the establishment, that cancer within the Republican Party, folks. Now, thank God for what I call remnants, man. I call remnant, patriot, constitutional Christian conservatives within the Republican Party. And if you don't like that, look, folks, I mean, all you got to do is compare. We are pro-life. Democrats are, pro-death. Mm-hmm. We are pro-family. Democrats are pro-dissolution of the family. And I'm not talking about, the, street, grassroots equivalent of the Democrat Party, because many of them, many Democrats are listening to us, Tejanos, Texans. They would say, whoa, I'm not pro-death, I'm pro-life. Whoa, I'm not pro-family. I am anti-family, I am pro-family. Well, let me tell you, your Democrat Party has been hijacked by radical leftists who want to destroy everything that you hold near and dear. So it's time for you to rethink your party affiliation and put principle over party. But Sheena, as you're talking about that, my thought is, okay, and we've been saying it, that the establishment element of the Republican Party is in bed with the leftist ideologues, and the establishment's doing it for money. The rhinos, they're doing it for money. the love of money, and the left is doing it for their god, which is power and authoritarian rule, etc. So we need to send to every conceivable level, every appointed position, as many patriots as we can, right?
Yep.
And there's a role for that, but there's also a role for activists such as yourself, Sheena. Can you tell us a little bit about the other groups that you're affiliated with? I know you're also involved with some other groups. Can you kind of just give us a quick overview of some of your other group affiliations?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the True Texas Project, I became the citizen advocate there. They do a lot of work in Austin. They were one of the original Tea Parties here in Texas. And they do a lot of training, a lot of education. And now they're focusing a lot on the local and county levels as well. So that's one of them. And then, of course, LFT, Latinos for Trump, Latinos for America First. They traveled all around Texas, but really focused along the border. And we're one of the key groups, in turning the RGV area red and along the border, because you talk about the as Hispanics, right? We are conservative by nature. And I think that, especially I want to just kind of pause on the Latinos for Trump and Latinos for America First. And I say that because we're going through a name transition, right?
Right.
So, but, the work there, I see it here in our area. And that's one of the reasons why why I was blessed to be brought on here, trying to get it up and going here in the DFW area. Because a lot of the Republican Party doesn't want to reach out to minorities. I mean, that's just the truth. That's what I see here in my area.
Wow.
Okay. You go up, like Rosalie, and so many people here in my area that have even ran for local offices here, and the Republican Party doesn't want to back them. And they're minorities. And it's because they don't want to they don't want to go down that road. And I'm like, but it's the conservative message that wins. So I don't know if it's because they're just not comfortable with the conservative message, that they're just and that's why even Trump was so appealing. My husband, the very first time that my husband ever voted for president was for Donald Trump.
Wow.
Ever.
And it's amazing because I hear that from Latinos all the time that they were Democrat until they heard Trump, and because he appealed to the minority, he appealed to the Latino ideology, and you're right, the conservative argument does win. When I talk with a lot of Democrats and explain to them the Republican platform, they're like, those are the things that I believe in. Frank, you were talking about earlier how the Democratic Party has been hijacked. I think it really has been hijacked in the sense that it's something new. I think they've just completely embraced their original ideology. Remember, they were the founders of the KKK. They were the originators of slavery, and so I think what's happening is that all this stuff is just coming to the surface now, and they're blatant with it. And so when I talk to people about being pro-life, they're like, oh, well, I'm pro-choice, and then we have to explain to them, pro-choice is not pro-life. But for some reason, you're right, that the Republican Party, for some reason, I think that's been their weakness for a very, very long time, is trying to appeal to the minority, is trying to talk to the Latino, trying to talk to anyone of color, and so I think they're just afraid of offending. And then you have, like Governor Abbott, they're in Austin right now. For some reason, I think he's waiting for the Democratic Party to work with Republicans, which is not going to happen. And to tell you the truth, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, you were down there yesterday in Eagle Pass, and you were down there the other day in Eagle Pass, and you saw those carriers, right, or whatever it is.
Yeah, the overseas containers.
Overseas containers, right, which is really doing nothing.
Yeah, and my God, there's maybe 20 of them down there. Maybe the length of a football field, a little bit over. It's ridiculous. But the thing about it, man, is that you just get a snapshot of that, and people believe it. Hey, look, we're doing something here in Texas. All you got to do is look to the left 100 feet, look to the right 100 feet, upriver, downriver, and it's still the same thing. It's still the same thing. And Sheena, I know, has been down there, and to those river landings and seen it firsthand with her eyes. But let me just qualify something for you all here. And I was doing a little bit of internal cringing. And you've ever heard this before, but growing up in South Texas, way down in the Rio Grande Valley, Alamo, which is Far San Juan, McAllen, Mission, Donna, Edinburgh, Harlingen, that area. Alamo was right there. I was just a Texas kid growing up in South Texas. It wasn't, man, till my early adulthood that I even freaking realized that people saw me different. And I was like, what? I mean, how am I different from you? Well, you're brown skin. And I was like, geez, man. I mean, even as a kid, internally, I just knew that we're created in the image of God, man. Right. And the image of God. And He has put together this skin kaleidoscope, the multi-speckled bird referred to in the Old Testament, to show His glory. And so I think, to kind of address that aspect of the reluctance of supporting people that happen to look like us. Look, they need to get over that. They need to listen to the candidate, to their character, the intent of their heart, their words, the pledges they're making, and be the best qualified person out there. But yes, there is whatever you would call it, a hint of tension. Other persons would use other words, but I think that also what goes into effect here, Sheena and Manny, is what you were saying, that we are very conservative. You look at Tejanos up and down this river, and throughout Texas, we are very conservative, and so there's probably been a lot of resistance. Like your friends that have run for office, because they are very conservative. I think that's probably the predominant factor. But there's some people have not seen. Look, this is the way we make inroads, because the left has used categorization, compartmentalizing people according to certain classes and colors and genders and all this stuff. So the Republican Party has to embrace our super conservative folks that can go into some of these heavy Democrat areas and make a difference, because there is an aspect of affinity. When somebody comes in, it's probably just human nature. You see someone that looks like you, okay, man, I can see where there might be a gravitational pull towards that. But at the end of the day, we are Texans, we are Americans, we love our freedoms, our Constitution, our way of life, and we need to fight to preserve all that.
Yeah, and what's said well said, Frank. I'm gonna use this here real quick, because I got a new soundboard, so I got to use this. All right. But no, you're right, Frank. And even though both of you and I are Latino, we have different opinions on some things, and which is good to have different opinions.
Yeah, we'll take that out back later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Because I am a Raiders fan. You are a Cowboys fan.
So I had to go there,
bro. I'm sorry. But I think a lot of people think, Sheena, you've seen it, that they think that because there's a Republican title by somebody's name, that automatically if we're Republican, we should vote for them, right? But that's not the case.
Yep. And actually, to that point, that's how I used to be. Like, so and I'm admitting this, I was part of the problem, right? Because where I got started off was actually in the pro-life movement. So for 5 years, I was volunteer counselor for Mid-Cities Pregnancy Center. The name has now since changed over here in our area. I served in our Irving office when we had that open. So everything that I'm passionate about, I view as pro-life in that area. Like, I see that connection, right? Like, even with the border, I see those are pro-life issues, right? Like, those in my head, when I see it, the way I see it through my Christian view, I see it as a pro-life issue, okay? Because what's happening right now is horrific, okay? There's nothing humanitarian. It's modern day slavery. I mean, we could go on and on about that, right? But over there, most of the people that were over there that I saw in Irving, and if you're familiar with the Irving landscape, was Latinas that came into the office. Wow. And these are people from the church that some even from the church that I would go to, young girls that are buying into the lie. They're buying into the propaganda. And of course, by nature, I would automatically think that conservative is Republican.
Yep.
Automatically. Like, I voted for Abbott several times. I've never voted for a Democrat ever in my life because I identified as a conservative, and I connected the R next to the conservative message. And I remember it really wasn't until Bush where I was like, started questioning, right? Of course, 9/11 and the after effects of it. And I'm like, but what really got me questioning was, I'm like, well, why isn't Bush at the March for Life? I was confused. I'm like, wait a second. But I still just didn't pay attention. I thought that I was educated. I would watch Fox News or whatever, Sean Hannity show. And I thought that was like enough, right? Boy, was I wrong. And I focused so much. I think there's so much focus on the national level, where the state level, I mean, most people could tell you who the president and the vice president is, on the conservative side, but hardly anybody could tell you who their state senator is, or their state representative is, or their city mayor is.
Which matters,
and
right?
So
Which
they
matters.
it does. Yep. If anything, it matters even more. But they just started voting down ticket, right? Like just R straight down or D straight down. They weren't vetting people. I was one of those people. Just because I was in the pro-life movement, I assumed, and boy, was I wrong. And I mean, that's where now we have to be educated. We have to take the time to be able to vet these candidates, do the research on them, see who's funding them. Like Speaker Phelan, he's on the board of Catholic Charities.
Wow.
Are we not going to talk about this?
Yeah.
He says it on his bio. You can go to the House of Representatives on there. He's on the board of Catholic Charities. And that's just one of them.
Yeah, and and that's kind of something else. Before we had about 15 minutes, but I kind of want to address. That's a good segue in that these NGOs that are in operation right now on the border, especially Catholic Charities, and people don't. I'm not trying to make an indictment against the Catholic religion or anything like that. That's just their name, Catholic Charities. But here in Del Rio, we have the Valverde Humanitarian Border Coalition, which I don't think they're humanitarian whatsoever, because I believe these NGOs are nothing more than travel agencies for the cartels and for smuggling organizations, as well as facilitators of human trafficking and sex exploitation, of minors. You work a lot in that, trying to expose, human trafficking and sex trafficking of minors, and you mentioned, Catholic Charities, and I believe these NGOs are a big part of the problem. How do you feel about that?
Absolutely. And again, that goes with the propaganda, right? With the automatic association that we have in our head. I know even some good people that are like Catholic Charities, like, oh, well, I used to work with them. I used to serve with them. And they think that just because the name Catholic now means, well, look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden is Catholic, right? Look at Nancy Pelosi. So it goes back to doing the research. They exploit, they use the propaganda, and it's really demonic in the way that they know what they're doing. I mean, they know what they're doing. It's absolutely disgusting. And two, the sex trafficking part of it, that's one of the biggest reasons why I felt called to get involved into the border. Dallas DFW area is now #1 for sex trafficking, right? And I've been blessed to become associated with some people who are combating that as well. And so that's already an area that, I mean, my goodness, some of the worst sex trafficking cases are through churches.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Are through the NGOs.
And the sad thing is because they don't vet people. I'm a religious leader. I lead a congregation here in Del Rio, Texas, and I have to say, even within the Jewish community, we lack in any type of training in regards to vetting people, in regards to getting involved in the community politically. People want to separate that all the time, but the reality is God has called us to be a voice for those who have none, and the religious community is supposed to be at the forefront of this. I remember, reading history, because I was like you, I believe it or not, I had a hard time voting for Trump initially, because of I didn't know if he was a true Republican or whatnot, and this and that. And then I come to find out he's like the truest Republican I've ever seen in my life, and so but the reality is that people separate our politics and our faith, and then we don't set the example. As a religious community, to be out there. Back in the day, you had to actually be a part of a congregation if you want to run for office. You went and you got the endorsement of the local religious community. Now they avoid us like the plague, or a new variant or whatever,
Yeah.
And so whatever name they're going to come up with next week, but the reality is, it's sad to say, and then and it's also sad that there are a lot of religious leaders who hide behind their pulpits and use that 501c3 as a shield to not say anything or to get involved. And I'm very passionate about that anyway. So I just, but you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
Hey, Sheena, real quick, I wanted to ask you a question about the need. You talk about the sex trafficking issue, and I know you're involved with some folks that are very very passionate about that. So as these groups travel across the state, they're really doing, and across the country, they're really doing a very specific work. It's a very specific goal, and it can't be by no ways cheap.
Yeah.
It costs money, this is an aspect. It makes some folks uncomfortable because what is he going to do? Start asking for money? No, look, some people are meant to be frontline, sword in hand, you know, uh, and we're all called to that, to fight for our spiritually, fight for our families, for our marriages, for our communities, and pray. That's part of our warfare. But some people are called to be in the political arena. Some are called to be, wherever God calls you. Be the CEO of a company, be wherever God has put you. But some people are very blessed financially, and part of what you do certainly has to be because you've gotten some, financially blessed people, rich people to support you, right? To support those efforts, not you, but those efforts.
Yeah, not our organization, not yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll come so we can be even more impactful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people behind the scenes. But, I will say this: there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are willing to, to help fund these efforts with some of these people. And I mean, God bless them. That's what we need.
Yes.
But even then, it's man, it's God,
Yeah.
truly and honestly, because when you compare dollar for dollar what the left gets, and you've got like the George Soros, and you've got a lot
Mm.
of it's nothing on the conservative side, comparatively speaking. So it still is a lot of sacrifice, and time, and people's own money. I know even for us getting started out, I've spent thousands of dollars this year. My
Wow.
husband works two jobs, and goes to school. I'm a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. It's just that my
Yeah.
children are older, so I'm able to be out there and be on the forefront a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's so I would hope that more people. You talk about everyone has a role. Well, we need more people.
Yeah.
We need more people, financial backers. Everyone does. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the truth. It's not about asking and begging for money. That's the truth. You
Yeah.
you see a group that is doing God's work in whatever way, and you felt led. Please
Yeah.
support Manny and Frank. I mean, because
We do have
all
we
of
do have a
this
donate button.
it costs money.
We do have a donut button, and it does take a lot of time, a lot of effort. When we first started this program, I talk about it live. Of course, we do our program once a week. But then individually, sometimes we're out there. Frank's out there with U.S. Border Patriot. Just about every day. Going live. I like I said, I lead a congregation. I'm involved in some other organizations as well. So it takes up a lot of your time to try to create awareness and to try to help bring people up to date on what is happening. And it does sometimes get disheartening. Sometimes I feel, I'm just going to kick back as well. And then within 5 minutes, I'm like, I can't. And I got to go back out there and say something or do something about what is happening here, especially when it comes to our children. This generation, not too long ago, is actually one of the first generations to ever grow up with legalized gambling, with legalized prostitution in some areas, with with this abortion on demand. It's a way of life. I've heard, I've counseled couples that want to get married, and they want. I remember one couple want to express their vows. It's like, so as long as our love shall last. I'm like, what do you know what? So everything. My point is that everything that is contrary to the scripture now is being somewhat normalized. Like yesterday when I was passing by the gas station over there, I saw these illegal aliens and people just walking by, not paying any attention anymore. it's becoming normalized. This invasion is becoming a normal thing, and people don't realize that a lot of those little children that they see in these groups don't belong to those families, don't and are going to be exploited or even put in some type of sex trade. And sadly, sad enough to say, these NGOs are a big part of it. So I always tell people, even vet those that they have a Christian name, a religious name in front of them, a humanitarian name in front of them. Vet them. Make sure that they're doing really God's work, because they'll use God's name, to go to do evil.
I would say vet them even more, honestly.
Oh, of
I mean, at
course,
least
yeah.
the Democrats and the liberals, and I don't mean liberals in like because the true liberals, they would have been, we probably would have, fell in line with them, but I'm talking about the left wing, like nuts, right? Sorry. They tell us to our face what they want to do and where they stand. It's our own party and the conservatives and the Republicans that will stab us in the back every time.
I think
it's the same thing with a lot of the churches.
And you're right, and I think I get shocked when I hear people tell me, I'm really surprised that the Biden administration is doing that. It's like they told you from the get-go when they were doing what they were going to do, that they were going to open our borders. We had one comment I just want to address here real quick about the containers that are meant to detect and redirect illegal aliens. That may have been what Governor Abbott said, but they don't do that. They don't detect or deter. It just maybe actually I think slows immigration down.
Yeah, it's very clear what the way he set those up in Eagle Pass. They're purely for photographic reasons, man. It's all it is.
Yeah.
And you worked Eagle Pass specifically.
I sure did.
You were
yep.
down there. That where those containers are set up. There may have been a crossing area, but that's right in broad daylight underneath the bridge. Most of the people avoid that, though.
Oh yeah, that's downtown. I mean, the pool guy gets set up over there. Sporting events get set up over there. There's a golf course there. But the point is that even when President Trump was in office, we didn't need those type of things.
Yeah.
He actually slowed down illegal immigration. Huge percentage wise.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say, the Border Patrol has plans to set that stuff up, and Abbott was the governor when Trump was president. Man, he should have gone balls to the wall to help President Trump get it done here in Texas. Whatever you need to put up this wall, let's get it done right now that we have a friendly president. Instead, much like Kevin McCarthy and the rest of the Rhino establishment, they dragged their feet, or they actively fought against him. And so, and I know there's folks watching us that like Governor Abbott. I'm sorry. This is his opportunity to be forever known as a true American hero patriot, and he is squandering this opportunity.
Yeah. And I like the guy. I like the guy too. I've got an opportunity to meet him several times over the years. He was really big on faith-based bills and whatnot, and helping people in regards to their religious freedom and whatnot. But the reality is, not everybody does what they're supposed to do, and he's not doing what he's supposed to do.
And Sheena, you know this. I mean, Abbott, Patrick, and Phelan are taking money from, for instance, the gender modification lobby.
Wow.
Wow. And you saw it firsthand up there. You saw the lobbyists down there in masses, right, in Austin.
That's all that's down there. Is a lot of them are the lobbyists, and a lot of them are the bust-in, paid actors. I say paid because they hand out gift cards a lot of the times. The left, they are very well organized, and they're very well funded. And they're on every level. Yeah, I mean, they're there. And that's why I say, like, it's important for you. And I want to challenge those who are Abbott supporters real quick. With Texans Against Illegal Immigration, what we do is we try to educate, and then we try to make it simplified. Luli's really good about, like, streamlining the process. There are certain things right now everyone's calling for a special session, right? And that's great. We need to have that done. Those who are supporting Abbott, call and put the pressure on them for a forced special session with border security and the vaccine mandates on the call. And if you are a supporter of his, please call and reach out and say, hey, I'm a supporter of yours. We need to get these things done, right? And you can go onto our website, TexansAgainstIllegalImmigration.com. It's like two clicks of a button to fill out and send that. It's not demonizing. It's not anything like that. It literally hold his feet to the fire, and then tell us, report back to us, show us. We would gladly, all of us, and I'm sure you guys would agree, that if Governor Abbott stepped up and started actually doing the right thing, right? Like passing HB 141,
Right.
which would change charges from a misdemeanor to a felony, right?
Yeah.
Trespassing charges. That's what we're going to be pushing for border security. There's a lot of things that he could have done
Yeah.
and he didn't do, just relating to the border alone.
Yeah.
Why isn't he doing it?
Yeah.
Please explain it. And if he does do it, and
Yeah.
he does pass this through, we'll be the first ones to sit there and say, hey, great job, thank you.
You know, I'm sorry,
but I don't see it.
he's supposed to be, you know, our champion, you know, and for instance, right next door to Travis County, you know, where Austin is it, Williamson County, Round Rock, Texas, where parents' rights to be involved and participate in school board meetings, attend school board, it's being directly shut down, you know, not more than, you know, 50 miles, 100 miles from Austin. You know, as our champion, he needs to, you know, all it takes is for him to say no. Under the Texas Open Meetings Act, parents, citizens have a right to be there. That's all he's got to do. You know, he should honestly, you know, use his power, his influence. There's a lot of things that could have been done. Instead, it's been relegated over to Dan Patrick and Phelan, and those guys are all special interests. You know, they're in the pockets of special interest, and so that's why I call him Abbott the Abdicator, because by through acts of omission, by not being involved, he has during his tenure allowed Texas to go left, to go into purple. You know, and so that's why, you know, we kind of started this whole thing saying is, you know, Sheena, from what you have seen down there, you've seen the role of lobbyists, you've seen the left special interest groups in there working on our elected Republican representatives, you know, working them over, enticing them, you know, buying them off, pampering them with gifts and attention and who knows, God, what else.
Their trips. And it's they use our taxpayer dollars to do it.
Yeah.
Taxpayer funded lobbyists.
Yeah, it's terrible. And so I don't give Abbott a pass on this at all. He is the leader. He is the leader. And biblical scripture talks about when a king is an unrighteous king, the people groan. And so that's why here in Del Rio, we have issues in our community because we have an openly homosexual man who is advocating his ideology and ramming it down people's throats, and so Del Rio has issues because of that. There are spiritual principles at work, and here in Texas, and here in our district with Congressman Tony Gonzalez, my God, look at what's happening to our nation. That guy is, anyways.
He's a traitor.
Yeah, and then of course at the state level, and there's so many representatives out there, state legislators that are doing the same. And so that's why I've been particularly hard on Abbott. He's had several terms. He could have done a lot, especially when Trump was our president. Man, that was a perfect opportunity for them to work hand in hand to address a lot of these, you know, primarily border security, but there are a lot of other issues. And he's more reactive. He has to be, led to the water. Much the way that we got him to come down here to Del Rio was because the outcry was so loud, so huge, he finally had to respond and come over here.
Yep. But didn't take any questions, you know, except by a certain few.
Yeah.
You know, same with Tony Gonzalez when he comes down here as well. Doesn't take any questions and whatnot. But you know, we got to get going. So I want to thank you so much for being on our program here today. Hopefully we get to have you on again here soon. You know, we appreciate all the work that you're doing, how you're gotten involved. I put the website there, you know, Texans Against IllegalImmigration.com, correct? That's the website. They can go there and they get more information. You know, we have a website as well, TacoboutItLive.com. You can, you know, contact us as well. We can put you in touch with Sheena also, and hope we get to see you here on the border again soon. You know, but maybe for better reasons, because hopefully this crisis eventually, I don't see an end to it with this administration, but anyway.
Yeah. Do you have anything you'd like to leave our audience with, Sheena?
Yeah, real quick, we are where we are because of the failures of both parties.
Yeah.
So don't be like I was. Don't vote for somebody just because they have an R beside their name. Do your research, get involved, visit our website, go on the Take Action tab, and start holding them accountable, start doing the right thing. Thank you guys so much for having me on. God bless you guys, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sheena.
Thank you,
God bless
Sheena.
you. We'll
God
talk
bless
to you
you.
soon. God bless. Well, folks, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today on Talk About It Live with our special guest, Sheena Rodriguez, and with Texans against illegal immigration. And so you're, of course, more than welcome to go visit their website at any time and support their mission and what they do. It's a good mission, and what they're trying to do. Frank, you got any closing words?
No, I just do want to real quick. Look, there's a watcher here, viewer, who's asking about the redistricting, and just so Biden's suing because of the redistricting. Texas put their plans together. Attorney General Paxton's already jumped in. There's going to be a fight going on with that, and so it's kind of hard to say what's going to happen eventually.
Right.
But and so how does that impact right down to the district level, to the local district level? Look, some places didn't see any change. Some places did. Some districts were chopped up, sliced into. New districts were created. So definitely there's going to be some questions about that. But right now that first bullet has been shot. Now it's a reply of Texas, and so there's going to be some back and forth on that. Certainly, thanks for bringing it up. We're going to keep our eye on that, and to see what really what happens, how that affects elections that are going on right now. But there's already people campaigning based on these new districts that were created. So so let's keep our eye on that and see what happens.
We could do a whole nother program and all that.
Just on that.
Just on that, right, on the redistricting stuff. But folks, again, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Again, don't forget to visit our website, talkaboutitlive.com. Email us at talkaboutitlive@gmail.com with any of your questions, your concerns. We do have a donate button, folks, like we were saying earlier. A lot of this stuff takes a lot of effort, comes out of our own pocket, but we're willing to do this because we want to bring awareness to the crisis that's happening in our nation, to defend our freedoms, our way of life, and also, in my opinion, to spread the good news of Messiah Yeshua, who is our Lord and Redeemer. And if you don't know him, please get to know him. He's the only way to enter into the kingdom of heaven. So, folks, I want to thank you so much for joining us. So we say God bless you, God bless America, and God bless Texas.